So next up, we've got Mr. Greg Guernsey from the City of Austin. He's the Director of Planning Development Review there. Thank you.
So it looks like it's good afternoon, and welcome to Houston. I used to live in Galveston. I'd come up and party in Houston, and I was talking to Kelly on the way over, and at the time my wife's grandmother lived in the Heights and moved in some housing, senior housing, and kept a note, and the house was probably only worth about $22,000, $23,000. And it was a nice little house, had a little floodplain in the back, and I thought, well, that was really nice. And when she passed, I became the administrator, and I got the monthly check from the homeowner. So I mentioned I was coming down today and speaking in Houston. My wife goes, I wonder what that house, Grandma's house was like, and looked it up, and it was like close to $400,000 now. And so gentrification is certainly an issue that's not unique to Austin, because you keep hearing about Austin's prices, but it's certainly well thriving, alive within the Loop and the Heights area of Houston. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to light. So I'm Greg Guernsey. I've been with the City of Austin since 1985. So for most municipal employees and planning departments, I'm a relic, as you would say. Our department is made up of all the building functions, the functions that deal with zoning, subdivision, long-range planning. We have a separate transportation department that handles Uber, that can take up to 4 hours in Austin of discussion about whether the taxis are rights or not. So we don't deal with those particular type of issues. Austin itself is about 300 square miles and has an ETJ of about 310 square miles. So we're certainly about half the size of maybe San Antonio. I too hired 2 assistant directors. It took me about 9 months. Both were from Texas, though. And I think that's kind of round out some things. My demographer told me in April we were the fastest growing large metropolitan city in the United States. I think Teresa and David kind of bore some of that out, saying we grew 118,000 people between 2010 and 2012. There's about 110 people a day moving to the Austin metropolitan area. When I moved to Austin back in about '83 to go to grad school, we were probably just about 320,000. My demographer says we're about 880 right now. So that kind of gives you an idea. I must have made a boo-boo here. Hang on. Oh, maybe I should just use the mouse. Oh, now you're into me, yeah. Yeah, okay. I'll just right click. So, I want to talk about a couple things today, and in Austin, we adopted our comprehensive plan in 2012. Imagine Austin was actually, you could say, the third attempt to do our comprehensive plan. I don't think we stole the name from Houston, but that was certainly a grassroots effort that came up with Imagine Austin. Our plan envisioned a time frame about to 2039. One of the major programs that's underway right now in my city is Code Next, which is a rewrite of our code, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So let me talk a little about what I'm going to talk about today. I'll give you a little introduction, which I kind of already done. I'm going to talk about the implementation about Imagine Austin, because in Austin, process is as much as important as the product, and if you don't implement it, it's not worth a dang. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our implementation program, and then I'm going to talk about Code Next. Austin's a very engaging community. I've had staff come to me from West Coast, East Coast, all over the place, and they basically will come up to me and say, I never expected to meet citizens in an engaged way, and that's really true. I think Austin, unlike some cities in Texas, we go out of our way to say hello and bring you in. My notice requirements are 500 feet for both utility customers and property owners. Not to mention the 300 to 400 neighborhood organizations which we don't regulate how they come into our system. They just register the Public Information Office. So whether that's a site plan or a subdivision or a zoning change, and we actually notify more for those processes. So we try to invite you in. They're in Spanish, they're in English when we send out those notices. But we have an annual report for Imagine Austin. This is our second annual report that we'll be bringing out. It talks about our accomplishments that we have over the past year. And it's not just my department. It is very much a shared document among all the departments. We look forward to the year 2017 when we do our 5-year update. And these are in our city charter. They were established in the mid-'80s. And the past comprehensive plan that preceded Imagine Austin was grandfathered. Our first comprehensive plan was in 1928. I can't say 1925. Our first zoning ordinance was in April of 1931, along with our building code. We probably had 3 versions of the comprehensive plan. The last one that was adopted before Imagine Austin was the Austin Tomorrow Comprehensive Plan. That plan was more probably looking at growth centers that were kind of aligned along with IH35. It did bring forth a lot of changes to the city as far as regulations, but it even mentioned neighborhood planning, which was probably a relatively new thing back in the 70s. But it wasn't one necessarily that you would think that you would find brought up to today. We had actually 2 other opportunities. One was Austin Plan in the late 80s. And you saw various curves of development. Well, back in the 80s, mid-80s, the economy started going really bad. In the late 80s, I would say the Texas economy was far worse than we've just experienced in 08, 09. The dot-com bust for Austin was just horrible in the early 2000s. At that time, all the S&Ls, savings and loans in Texas, were folding. My note got flipped, I think, 6 times in a period of probably less than 4 years. I was even picked up, I think, by the FDIC, I think was even one of the entities. So we established a vision through Imagine Austin. It looks at becoming a complete community. And in the center of this is a growth concept map, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And Austin, just so you know, is kind of a divided city. And what I mean by a divided city is that the east is grassland prairie, and to the west is hill country, not unlike San Antonio that has that same thing. We have an implementation program which is really important to this, and it is a hallmark of Imagine Austin. And we look at it looking at community engagement, internal alignment, regulations, capital investment, and partnerships, and I'll go through those in a little bit more detail. Community engagement. When we did Imagine Austin, we reached out to over 18,000 participants in that process. We're very proud about that. It was a very difficult thing to do. When we went out, particularly the Hispanic community, I think somebody had mentioned that was difficult in their city. We actually went to hang tags. We had things called meetings in a box that we would pass out that you just turn in. It's kind of shaped like a pizza box, but you could hold meetings for within your group, your church, your civic organization, or whatever. But even after the plan was adopted, we had meetups. We had one of our first ones is at South by Southwest. Let's talk about our comprehensive plan. Do you even know what your comprehensive plan is? Do you even know what it says? We have all these new people coming, so that was one way to engage them. We have a speaker series. We've had over 1,000 different people come in to go through our speaker series. We've invited people like Jeff Speck, talk about walkability, Mark Stern, talk about arts and cultural development within your community, and we've had many others, and we will continue to do that. We don't have a lot of money to do that, but we will continue to do that. We've also tried to do online outreach to folks and to bring them in. We've even taken our comprehensive plan and then taken to Book People. It's the second largest, I think, independent bookstore in the United States. I think they've actually sold more copies of our Imagine Austin comprehensive plan than we've actually been able to sell across our counters. There's internal alignment. I put a little green at the top because I was told that was kind of the theme of the Houston section. But it's really aligning a lot of our programs together. Before our last comprehensive plan, the Parks Department would do some development over here, the Public Works Department would do development over here, you would have water lines, sewer lines. Eastern Department was looking for own little plans to try to engage and bring those to fruition. We're trying right now to bring those all together and having that discussion. So in the comprehensive plan, there were 8 priority programs: Compact and Connected, Code Next, which I'll talk about in a little bit, Sustainable Water, Green Infrastructure, Workforce Development, a Creative Economy, Healthy Austin, and Household Affordability. We put these into topic groups. The city managers basically dictated down to the departments saying how important it is. My department is not the lead on all of these. In fact, my department is only in the lead on Code Next, and other departments are responsible for those other pieces. So I work with them, they work with me. If we all don't work, then we get in trouble. So we have Compact and Connected. We also adopted a complete streets policy this summer. We're advancing on urban trails, master plan. We have a Velvet Crown trail system that we're putting in Southwest Austin on the east side. We've put in along Walnut Creek trail systems that are going in. We worked with Capital Metro on a complete rapid bus system and trying to work with them. Our rail package, which was a major package that came up at the beginning of November, failed by 58%. Most every other bond item on there passed. Back in the 90s, we also proposed light rail. That failed by 0.5%. So this one actually failed by a lot more. Most of the voters that were really engaged liked it if you lived downtown, maybe near the university, along the route. But if you were in the suburbs, everybody voted against it. But they raised bonds for the ACC, the community college, and also for the school district. Code Next, and I said more detail on this, but some of the accomplishments, we go out and we listen to the community, and there were numerous meetings, both in small settings, interviews. We've looked at the code diagnosis, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. We had a character manual where we went out and kind of showed pictures of people about the places, but like I said, I'll come back to that because that's what I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So these are all accomplishments that we're putting in this annual report, and we're giving this to councils, made open to the public. Austin's in a drought. We spent about an hour last night at council talking about a new golf course for a PGA golf course. Staff wasn't recommending that. Our water director had a very difficult time with that. We have actually won awards for water quality and actually reducing the amount of gallons of consumption per person. I think we've already passed our goal that was identified. We have a watershed protection department. Austin regulates a lot of the area, particularly over the recharge zone, through our watershed protection ordinance, and we had a major update to that ordinance in the past year. We also have bond packages that we float, and we acquired, I think, of over 1,700 acres this past year to put towards open space. It's interesting when you really talk to a lot of the businesses that come to Austin. Why do you want to come to Austin? Well, it's so green. That Carlos had mentioned in his little speech earlier about you have a great downtown, you have a great park system. I don't know about our transportation system, but we certainly got 2 out of the 3 right on that. Habitat conservation in Martin Springs. We do have salamanders, or little protected critters, and so we take pride in that. the Barton Springs pool is really our gem, our central park. If you ever come to Austin, you should go down there. Water's a little cold, 68 degrees, but you'll enjoy it. I talked a little bit about the water quality. I guess it was 1,800 acres. We just started an urban forestry plan. We've been already looking at public trees. We've now consolidated the forestry unit within my department, and now we're going to look at a private tree program across the city. Not that we're going to regulate anything, but to get a better idea of what our tree infrastructure is both on private land, because we've already done that for public lands. We're looking for certainly partnering, and we do this all the time with the Nature Conservancy, Hill Country Conservancy about buying lands, and we work with our water utility as well as trying to work with the management of those lands. We have a digital divide in Austin. We have a lot of residents that don't have access to internet. They don't have access to either the hardware or software that's out there. We are blessed to have Google name Austin as one of the cities, and it's kind of a give and take blessing. If you're trying to put an entire infrastructure in within less than 2 years, your permitting section gets kind of rattled. So if you are fortunate enough to have Google come to your town, AT&T will lower their rates. Comcast, Time Warner will probably lower their rates or increase your speed for free. I asked for $1 million this year, and I was fortunate to get it to help have additional inspection services to get all that infrastructure in for this year, and I'll probably be asking it for next year. If I can find a way to charge them, I will try to do that. We've worked with the Parks Department and our schools to have additional youth centers put into the city to try to get that out there. And we've also put in, and our council is very, minutes already? Okay, that is really important to get businesses that come into Austin saying, you can come to Austin, but we want you to have a living wage. Some of the other accomplishments that we've done is launching cultural mapping projects, and we've actually enlisted the help of artists because our artist community, both music and visual arts, are very important, but they're getting priced out of Austin, and we're trying to work ways to keep them in. Housing affordability, we've actually have a density bonus program downtown and along a lot of major thoroughfares where you get additional units if you provide some public benefits, community benefits, and a lot of those take in affordable housing. Capitol Studios is about 135 units. They're getting down to affordable units being 30, 40, 50% MFI into those units. That's our first affordable housing project in downtown Austin in probably about 45 years. But we're also looking at other housing across the city. Cities also approved bond projects. When they failed the first time around, the council's taken the step to actually put them back out there on a separate bond issued by themselves and actually get approved. So we're funding it across the city. Healthy Austin, we have a complete street policy. We've worked with the health department in working on actually updating our subdivision regulations about making complete streets and getting more walkable communities. My building has gone basically smoke-free along with many of the other city buildings in Austin. For smoke-free campuses, you can't smoke basically on city property. My employees can't smoke on city property. There are succession programs to get you off of that. We have Cycle 2. We put up 40 stations, I think, in about 6 months. Towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, I think there are like 50,000 checkouts so far on that. It's a very collaborative process. We do work with the school district. We work with the Parks Department. This is one example where we've been able to integrate water quality, traffic calming, stream restoration, and working with the community and trying to bring that all in place. Regulations, as I said, we updated the land development code, but we have Colony Park Master Plan, and we got a HUD grant for to try to make this a more walkable community. We integrate updating our zoning cases and looking at those things. A really exciting thing is our long-range CIP program. We have what's called a capital planning office, and they bird dog all the other departments and make sure that our bond money, CIP money, bond programs that go out are in coordination with our comprehensive plan or neighborhood plans, depending on what's happening in those particular areas. When we do small plan implementation, those departments look at our neighborhood plans as well, and we have about 59 of them that are proposed. We're probably about 4 away from completing that. Partnerships, we work with everybody that we can possibly work with. School districts, we have about 7 of them. We work with them on facilities, doing joint facilities, libraries, schools, or park facilities is being in those types of things. So I'll get to code next. I've only got about, as I said, our comprehensive plans, 21st century plan. These were the 3 pillars in which council said are most important in the plan. That the community engagement I've already talked about, that it is sustainable, that everything that we're looking at is looking at that long range about we'll be able to basically use our resources to the best of our ability, but the implementation part is a third big piece, and that's what we're talking about when we go through. These are the visions for our complete community through that already. This is our growth map. If you take a look at that, these are the areas where our community has decided we want to grow along these major corridors. Our code next is having a discussion, almost taking about a year and a half, just about how we will go about to do this. But this is where a lot of the direction will lie on what we change. Code next is that key piece. That's my piece that I'm responsible for of leading all these departments in. I have about 4 staff that are assigned for this task. We enlisted Opticos development or Opticos consultant to assist us with that. Our last code rewrite was done after our comprehensive plan. It's a major zoning rewrite. It took us 4 years. I wish you well, John, in trying to get your plans and everything adopted. Our comprehensive plan took about 3 years or so to get in. We've had about 181 amendments since 2005. If you think of a deck of cards, I have my ordinance, and then I start having watershed ordinances, signing different regulations, changes to different regulations for McMansion, commercial design standards. All that piles up. There are 60 districts. In 31, there were only 5 districts. So think about that. If you take all the different combinations of them, you get into the hundreds of districts, but I won't go there. It's not user-friendly. Our core to the revision team includes our city council, planning commission, a code advisory group, and I'll note that 4 of those representatives of the 11 were chosen by staff. The other 7 were chosen by our council, which is an at-large council. At the beginning of next year, we go to 10 districts. So while I'm doing all this, I'm going from an at-large council to districts. And I'll say having a comprehensive plan is very helpful because I think I'll be able to keep the context of the discussion of citywide in place. Our regulations that we're looking at are changing, are those that you see. Environment takes in landscaping, tree preservation, water quality. Just note that. Opticos, again, is our lead consultant. We couldn't do this project without them. Our comprehensive plan is about $2 million. Opticos in the end will probably cost about $2 million if you're trying to get an idea. But there's a lot of this is on staff side. I stopped all my neighborhood planning process to work on the comprehensive plan, and I actually started dedicating people with my department to work just on the code amendment. I can't have people doing 2 things at once. It's just impossible. This is the chronology of events. We started in 2012, and it just keeps going and going. And hopefully by 2016, about the time I retire, we'll be done with this. My proud city manager, I would probably stay to the end of this process. By that time, I'll probably have over 30 years with the city. So the foundation of a code is built on a lot of these different things. And if you look at these documents, the book in the back that this kind of the maroon color is my Aggie friends would like to say, whoop. This document is when we combined all our codes in 1987 into a single code and to create a land development code. Just as we did Imagine Austin, and I'm almost done, we have community character in a box. We went out to about 105 or so neighborhoods and asked them what do their neighborhoods look like, what is the resident character. It's very important because a lot of people wanted to basically have some stability in their neighborhoods, and there's areas of change and there's areas that probably won't change, and so this will inform how we go forward with our code. Again, you can take a look at some of these things that are out there. That's kind of some of the proposal. What does success look like? Because success is not the same to everybody. So this is what we've determined, that if we have a process is open and fair, is focusing, trying to get common ground, that we engage people in this process, we're on time and within budget, which we did with our comprehensive plan, I got a lot more traction with a code rewrite because I did the first thing. My comprehensive plan was on time, in budget, and I really did get out there and get engaged with all my friends. So, anyway, that's, if you want some more information, you can go on Austin Code Next. It's there. You can probably find a lot of information on Imagine Austin. I thank you for coming to this event. I greatly appreciate, I think this is a tremendous idea of having this event. It was probably a great idea for a state conference, too, but you went up the state, so my hat's off to you.
I've got a question for Austin. How did you manage to lower your per capita water consumption?
Well, I'll give you a little secret. We own a water utility. That helps a lot. We also own our electric utility, which helps a lot. We also own the airport. That helps a lot. We own control the convention center. That helps a lot. So having those different things all help attract businesses to come in to Austin, and then when we give them rebates and we give them incentives for not using as much water, all that really gets there. I think the drought and having the drip police, I guess you could say, come out and actually publicizing the 10 biggest water users, all those things do help the utility. But we offer free toilets. Those that you don't have enough money, you can come in, free shower heads. Those things are things that can be done. And reclaim water. Purple Pipe is your friend.
You mentioned briefly the transition from the at-large city council to the district.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what do you think the biggest challenges and opportunities are from that?
Well, it happens everywhere across the United States. I think Austin, Columbus, I don't know if they still have at-large. We were one of the last large cities in the United States to have an at-large system. And there's some reservations because I think they're going to lose that perspective. I'm glad I have the comprehensive plan, and I'm glad there's an annual update so they can actually see what happens on the rest of the city. I'm not as concerned based on the demographics of those who are most likely in the runoffs. We have 9 runoffs that are about to be finalized in the month of December. Interesting, I was talking to Kelly on the way over. We'll have at least 2 guys, and the rest will probably be all women. It will be the result. But there'll actually be a balance of minority groups, I think, on that. It'll probably be more alignment of political parties than we've seen before. But really, that our Austin process is mainly aligned with neighborhoods, environment, business, developer interests more than it is for Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else.
I was wondering, it seemed in the past the neighborhoods had often gone basically to a council member because they all represented the entire city. Do you think the system of your neighborhood
that's been all turned upside down by this, and you probably won't see that. The solution is dilution too, because you have all these people coming into Austin with much different ideas than the usual suspects.
About 4 slides from the end of your presentation, there was an image of a neighborhood plan. Is that something that was generated by your department, or was that something that was generated by the neighborhood itself?
No, the second attempt to rewrite the city's comprehensive plan took place in the 90s, and there was a group of citizens that were selected that worked on the plan that didn't go through because it came out about 1987, 1988. It was at a horrible time because the economy is so bad, and it was an anti-growth plan, so that's why that didn't happen. In the 90s, we looked at again doing a new comprehensive plan, and the Austin economy was picking up, and our planning commissioners, there were people that worked in the previous plan, neighborhood people, and it was decided that we would do bite-sized pieces. We would do neighborhood plans, and there was about 57, 59 of them that were part of that, and we started going down that road, and that was actually successful. But then the context, because Austin was growing so much, we need to look at the broader picture. And so the discussion then started bubbling up about, let's talk about a comprehensive plan for the entire city. They inform each other. It's a very sensitive topic in Austin. I'm sure it is in many communities. One doesn't necessarily trump the other. They both inform each other, and they both move in lockstep. So when we adopted a comprehensive plan, we brought all those neighborhood plans in with the comprehensive plan and took that forward.
I imagine in the same way that there's a lot of opportunity to learn from each other through environments like this. Can you talk about the work that Austin did with sister cities and trips and learning from other places and how that influenced the work that you did?
We do have a lot of sister cities from the United States, and they do come in and they talk to us. Maybe not so much for Imagine Austin. I mean, we actually engaged the county in our process. I guess you could say a committee of somewhere between 34 and 38 that we worked with. You know, that the 11 I talked to about for the Code Next, that's a good number. Dealing with 34 to 38 people, I think at the end it was maybe 32, was very difficult. But we engaged folks from the county in that process, and they probably informed us more. We had representatives of the university, representatives of the school district. We had youth that were in high school that were all part of that working group, that CAG that worked on the plan. I won't say that certainly those other sister cities across the United States, we had actually speakers that came in because we would send delegations to their countries. They would send delegations here, and we would have a much different discussion. A lot of that was top-down that we found in most of the other sister cities that we dealt with. They didn't really have the opportunity that we have here in the United States to really dictate what happens in their communities. The nice thing about sister cities is, you know, getting flights nonstop to London from Austin probably would never happen if we didn't have those dialogues and events like F1, which Austin really hates professional sports unless you count the University of Texas, which is our professional sport. So we've shunned AAA baseball, AA baseball. We just got rid of our minor league hockey team. They actually fled and went to a smaller town that surrounds Austin. But we do embrace weird things. You know, we have a very nice performing arts center, things like that. But those things are things that people come in from other places and say, we like that. You know, we like South by Southwest. You know, the people downtown aren't so keen on it, and neighbors around it, they're a little incensed by it. But that brings in a heck of a lot of money that really those other people coming from the international community and adding F1 are coming and seeing Austin in a whole new light. Thank you.